This song is for Daniel Bryan's revenge on the WWE and all the crap that's wrong with it. Daniel Bryan works hard, but what's he get for it? His belt took in 18 seconds in a losing streak. All to make you look better cause your skills are weak. Punk, you born, no one cares about your high knee. I watch a match and I'm fighting not to go to sleep. The Rock's back, great. What's he selling now? The only time he comes around is when his movie's out. And if I was Daniel Bryan, yeah, I'd be freaking out. Slap AJ with a chair like, bitch, who's crazy now? I know you're the GM and got a lot of power. I'm more the reason to throw you toasters while you in the shower. Bitch, you boring, no one cares what you gotta say. Bring back people power, fuck, we miss you, Johnny Ace. And furthermore, what's up with this dancing dinosaur who wrestles for 5 minutes and gasps for air on the floor? Homeboy, you're boring, and your gimmick's gay. In 3 years' time, nobody will even know your name. I got a big joke, Kane. Vince, you kill that character, for that I hope you die in pain. It seems to me that all you care about is Triple H, and for that I hope Brock gets pissed and breaks his face.
I think this is fake.
You can't say that.
I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it!
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
All right, you're listening to Marks on Commentary. I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
Man, it is so awkward to do that without a lead-in. We need to fix my computer desperately.
ASAP. We're getting there.
Well, I was explaining to Jason because we were kind of going off on, I felt like that pay-per-view, Night of Champions, was such a colossal disappointment in terms of, I think we both knew going into the pay-per-view that there really wasn't much in the card, how it was looking. I mean, again, it was kind of billed as a two-match pay-per-view where you had Punk against Axel and Heyman, and then you had Bryan and Orton in their rematch. But even in those, if you could call them main events, I wasn't even really invested in either of those.
Yeah, such a colossal drop from the last pay-per-view.
Right, and I mean, in terms of, I think that this year's SummerSlam just exponentially was so much better than last year's. And it kind of makes me wonder because I've always believed that WWE suffers from what I call the fall slump, which is they try to, obviously SummerSlam being one of the big four, they try to go all out for SummerSlam, but then when they get to what used to be Unforgiven and is now Night of Champions, it kind of drops off. And I mean, we've seen this in the past. I mean, think of 98 Breakdown. I didn't think that in terms of bad pay-per-views you could get any worse than Breakdown, and I was proven wrong this Sunday. And I mean, that was another pay-per-view too, and despite what a lot of the internet wrestling community want to say, the Attitude Era did have its fair share of flop pay-per-views.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Breakdown being one. I mean, you mean to tell me now, in retrospect, I don't know, maybe it just seems this way, but going into, say, the Handicap Championship match with Austin against Undertaker and Kane, did you really think that match was going to go another way?
No. It made storyline sense at the time to get the belt off Austin, and
I guess, and this is, maybe we should keep it more relevant, but in terms of retrospect, could they have even been, don't get me wrong, the whole storyline, and this is, I do want to tie this into what's going on lately, because I know a lot of people are really impatient with the Triple H, Orton, the McMahon Helmsley sort of, regime, as you call him, he's like a mob boss now. I get kind of frustrated with how impatient the fans are with the storyline, because consider, if you will, that the Austin McMahon storyline pretty much started when Austin first won that title, and it didn't actually end until, I would go as far to say, it didn't really end and it didn't really conclude until maybe Fully Loaded at 99 with the an era match. I mean, literally, you had almost maybe 2.5 years of one consistent story. And it was intriguing, and I was invested in it. Just going into this whole Triple H, Orton, and Bryan thing, there are a lot of things about the story that I like. It doesn't seem like it's paying off in the pay-per-views and the Monday Night Raws quite yet.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, Dusty Rhodes did make an appearance on Raw, and I had asked on Twitter, like, oh man, are we finally getting the, Cody versus Goldust fantasy match that we've been clamoring for? Because Stephanie McMahon came out and said, you have two sons, we have one spot open for a job, which son do you want to have the job? And we talked about it, and we could be the Nostradamus of wrestling, that I think this will culminate in a Rhodes family versus either the Shield or a McMahon family. I'm hoping it happens in Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Because we get it.
But I've also heard the tie-in, since Dusty was like the innovator of the War Games, that they'll tie it into the Battlefield. Was it Battleground pay-per-view?
Yeah.
So I've also heard that.
Well, I'm still curious because it's a brand new pay-per-view. What's going to separate that pay-per-view from all the other ones? Like, I feel like there has to be at least one gimmick match in there somewhere. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. I do want to touch on the pay-per-view, and for me, it was a giant disappointment.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone because I read this earlier, that apparently some cable companies have been issuing refunds to customers who ordered Night of Champions when they felt ripped off by the fact that Daniel Bryan won the belt and then was stripped of it the following night on Raw. Never mind the fact that there were a lot of repeat matches from the pay-per-view. So if you had actually paid, quote unquote, for this pay-per-view, the following night on Raw, you were kind of given like leftovers of that pay-per-view, and they had the same results pretty much.
It's ridiculous. Like, okay, like they got your money, and you didn't like the story, but like, okay, I just like spoilers. If you watch Breaking Bad, they just killed off like one of the guys who's been in there from the beginning. And it's like, I can't call my cable company and be like, hey, Breaking Bad, they killed off Hank. What the fuck? Like, I want my cable bill back. Like, I want it free this month. Like, I can't do that. Like, I'm sorry, that's television.
I want restitution from AMC for killing off a character who I didn't expect to die on Breaking Bad.
Exactly.
Well, that was the thing, though. You're an idiot if you went into that pay-per-view not knowing that something stupid was... And to be honest with you, I kind of love the fact that the referee fast-counted. He clearly owned up to it the following night. But you're going to find out, and it's maybe they're angry because it's such a predictable storyline, but, Triple H says, well, we got to get rid of you, Scott. I mean, WWE is all about integrity. There's so many things I want to touch on, like, I said on Twitter, like, were they trying to break the record for the most split screens to, kind of affirm, like, it was a fast count? Like, it's not football. Like, if you watch the match, you knew it was a fast count. Like, how much more convincing did we need?
10 seconds after it happened, I was tweeting on Twitter, like, oh, it's a fast count. That's how they get the belt back off of them.
I mean, are wrestling fans insulted that this sort of thing still happens in wrestling? Because, I mean, somebody had said on, I think it was WrestleZone, like, I want my money back after Austin lost the title to Kane at King of the Ring, only to win it back the following night on Raw. And not to mention that, like, Triple H is going on about, fast counts, it mars the great legacy of WWE. Okay, so should we have Shane McMahon issue refunds for all the fast counts he did?
Yeah, it's...
Lest we forget, Austin lost the strap to Undertaker over the edge because essentially Vince McMahon he tripped over Austin and Shane fast counted him. I mean, at the time, I was, 12 years old, and I thought that was compelling storytelling. Maybe it was because I was 12, but...
They haven't done this in a while, and there's only so many stories you can tell. It feels fresh. Stop fucking complaining. It's a story. Sit back and enjoy it. If they pulled, like, I don't know, if it was just another boring Cena match, you know what I mean? And Cena wins, would they be complaining? Yes. So this is different. You don't have Cena. This is a new story. Sit back, fucking enjoy it, and shut the fuck up.
I've been saying this since Night of Champions that, like, there are definitely superstars who I'm kind of like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'm done with the CM Punk Heyman angle. I think it's stupid. The fact that Ryback is now a Paul Heyman guy, like, I've been reading for a while that they've kind of had Ryback on deck for a definite push. Is that the right way to do it, though?
I don't know. I thought if they were going to do it, it was going to be the night after WrestleMania. I thought that would have been a great time to make him a Paul Heyman guy. Now the wheels have fell off Ryback, and I don't even know if the great Paul Heyman can fix him.
Personally, I think I will come right out and say this, and you can put this on TV tracks, and everybody can call me an asshole, and I'm a moron. I don't know what I'm talking about. If Paul Heyman actually can do something with Ryback that gets him over with the crowd or makes him compelling, Paul Heyman is Hall of Fame worthy. Like, he's the creative genius that everyone says he is. Essentially, if he could pull that off, he is the creative genius, because I don't care about Ryback. There's nothing there.
He's almost essentially like a joke. Like, Kali is huge. Kali in real life would kick my ass, but on television, I will laugh at him.
Well, that brings up the Big Show, or AKA the Big Saw, as I call him. What was it, the Weapon of Mass Destruction? That's what he calls when he punches someone in the face. I call it the Tears of Fury. Like, that whole angle with him not... all right, it was kind of cool how they gave, Big Show the ultimatum of, like, all right, well, the Shield can rip this guy limb from limb and decimate him, or you could punch him in the face. Which one do you want? It was when he broke down and was, quoting the 4-year-old virgin, he was holding, Dusty Rhodes ever so gently. That it's like, dude, you got punched in the face. Like, I get it, he's an old man, but you punched him in the face. I've met plenty of 60-year-olds that still get punched in the face in bar fights, and they don't get wheeled out on a stretcher and have vigils for them. Like, what does that say to Dusty Rhodes' credit? Like, I got punched in the face and he nearly died.
I don't know. Unless they're trying to somehow weaken the legacy of Dusty, so when if they do this McMahon-Rhodes match, that he's kind of the offset of Vince. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I couldn't help but notice, too, because I seem to remember when WWE made the transition into HD. Do you remember how there was a big deal about superstars being all freaked out because their spray tans were going to be noticed on, and like you could see the splat of the spray tan on the ring?
Yeah.
Holy blade job, Dusty.
Oh, I was going to say that too. I saw that.
I am so unappreciated in my time. That was like my little one-liner on Twitter, and nobody said anything. I'm like, oh, come on. I gave that one to you people. Well, regarding Daniel Bryan, 978-276-9418, we actually got what I thought was one of the funniest goddamn calls we've had in a while.
Daniel Bryan is going to be like a 20-time world champion by the time this storyline's over, man. I see it actually breaking Ric Flair's record. I really do. Holy hell.
I mean, now you heard the call, Jason. It's a little true. I mean, is Daniel Bryan, is this like a Y2J sort of deal where they're going to strip that win at Night of Champions from the record book? Like, I don't
know if it's officially recognized. That's actually a really good question.
Like, are they going to put an asterisk next to it? And, like, it's either, like, did it never happen, or is it kind of, like, sullied because, well, you got a fast count?
I don't know. Like, to me, if they're selling the DVD at the end where he won the belt, I think he's a legit champion and only held it for 24 hours.
You know what would actually be, and this may sound like the dumbest idea in the world, but I think would be kind of cool, is if now, and obviously it would piss off a lot of fans, so maybe I shouldn't work for WWE because people get pissed off, and instead of calling the cable company, they'll be running to Walmart, how dare you? But if they really wanted to, I think that certain storylines should translate into even home videos. Like, I kind of like the idea of, if they really don't want to acknowledge that Daniel Bryan won the title, get to the point where he, like, knees Orton in the face and then just fade to black. And the DVD's over.
You know how many people would call and complain?
See, this is the thing, though. The same stuff that made Andy Kaufman an unappreciated comic genius in his time is why wrestling can't be fun. Because you realize how hard I would laugh if I just spent like $20 on a DVD. And I'm like, oh man, this is the match when Bryan won this. Wait, what the fuck?
Here it comes. No!
Just fade to black with the, Night of Champions logo with the copyright.
Right to censor, like horn.
Yeah. I think that would be hysterical. Why? I can see it because if you're spending your hard-earned money on that. But you could also do that in the actual DVD, but include the full match in the bonus feature. Or you could just, you know what you could even do? You could keep the full match and just blur out the WWE title. Or I don't know if they could just put like a Divas Championship over him holding the title.
Which is so much worse.
I think it would be funny. The thing I was gonna say about Scott Armstrong though is I kind of like the twist it took, where so Triple H sends him off with a severance package, says he's gonna take care of him. If you're going back to your whole mob boss thing, he was the patsy.
Yeah.
He was been in this thing with Triple H since day one, but because it's Brian Armstrong, Road Dogg's brother, could that tie into like a conspiracy with former DX members? I mean, again, they are kind of mulling over. I mean, they probably won't do it because Triple H has said he wants to go in the Hall of Fame on his own before he goes in with any one of his factions. But the fact that DX has been talked about to go into the WWE Hall of Fame, I mean, again, there are interesting things you can do with storylines like that.
Yeah.
I mean, have we ever seen a storyline kind of culminate at a Hall of Fame induction ceremony?
I can't recall anything. Yeah.
I guess because it's meant to be taken seriously and it's supposed to be so prestigious, but like, you know, couldn't you, it's still WWE television, like couldn't you work a storyline into an actual event like that?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, again, these are ideas that I don't think they're really innovative. I just think they'd be kind of funny. Like, you know, if you really want to sell Triple H as the bad guy COO, why not blur out the belts on the DVDs or fade to black? Or why not carry certain storylines over into Hall of Fame induction? I mean, and there's a lot of stuff, and I know, you know, they were talking about the Hall of Fame in terms of someone saying, well, it's not a legitimate Hall of Fame until Bruno and Macho Man are in there. But we'll cover that later. We should probably stick to Monday Night Raw. In terms of the show, I was having a hard time on Twitter, man. Like, I was trying to do my one-liners. I was trying to get people, you know, laughing and interested. It's just, normally when I make cracks on Twitter during a Raw, I'm just having fun. This was actual work. Raw wasn't giving me much in terms of, like, being funny or being interactive with our listeners. I was kind of, at one point I walked away from my laptop and laid down because I had such a headache, because I was like, I legitimately don't know what to say about this show tonight.
I don't know. I mean, it's always a weak show after you come off a pay-per-view, but does it have to be a weak show after you come after a weak pay-per-view? Like, well,
that's what I was saying. After such, and I asked a bunch of people on Twitter, I was like, after such a lackluster pay-per-view, I mean, this is a completely hypothetical. I mean, you could even 978-276-9418 or at MO Commentary. How would you book a Raw after such a crappy pay-per-view? And I mean, it's funny too, because the Raw, I'll be honest, the Raw did end kind of cool with the entire locker room making the save for Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious if maybe that'll play into the storyline. And again, I think this is a storyline that forces your hand in terms of patience. Like, I really don't think the storyline's going to really pick up momentum until you get to either Survivor Series or, dare I say, WrestleMania.
It's going to take a while. Like, and it's building. Like, people get pissed of these month-to-month storylines, and it's like, you have something that's continuous. Like, this is enjoyable. Like, enjoy the ride. And I hope there's a huge swerve where it's Triple H puts the title back on himself or something like that. You know what I mean? It builds to something you don't even see.
Well, here's the thing. Shane Douglas said it best. When Punk had left at Money in the Bank and he was done with the company, he hijacked their belt, and, you know, he was infiltrating Comic-Con and all that. Shane Douglas has said, I wish that they had kept that storyline going for like 6 months and they hadn't brought him back for SummerSlam. But realistically, the fans aren't going to allow that elaborate of a storyline because they're patient. I mean, this is 2013. This is the internet age. Nobody has the attention span they used to. I mean, do I think that Punk angle could have paid off a lot better had they kind of drawn it out a little more? Absolutely. But I can't guarantee the viewers would have stayed because they would have. I mean, I was talking to people who said they switched off Monday Night Raw the second Triple H came out and stripped the title off Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
However, give them credit. He didn't give it back to Orton.
I'm sure there's an end game to the storyline, but...
Well, I mean, it's already announced that it's going to be Orton and Bryan again in a rematch for the WWE title.
I do enjoy the fact that it's like Triple H just manipulates the system to keep the belt off Bryan. It doesn't necessarily have to be on Orton. It just has to not be on Bryan.
Well, that was the cool thing, is supposedly Orton's the new face of WWE, but then he contradicts it on Raw when Stephanie comes out and says, you're not the face of WWE. You're not the guy we want you to be or we need you to be. I think in that regard, when they were kind of goading Orton into revisiting, the legend killer Orton, the cold-blooded Viper Orton, I don't think taking out the Miz is probably the most ingenious way of making Orton a heel. I mean, I could be wrong. I personally am not a Miz fan, and I'm so happy Catherine's not here to fight me tooth and nail on this. I think he sucks. I don't think he's a good athlete. I don't think he's very interesting. And as a bad guy, I didn't see him as more of a prick. Like, it's okay, it's one thing to be a prick. It's another to be, like, somebody who I genuinely hate because you're so goddamn evil. He was just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like, I don't view The Miz as a credible face or heel. So if you want to kind of build Orton into, like, this cold-blooded killer, why stick him on The Miz?
You're doing the fans a favor.
That's what I was saying. I was like, wow, this is the first time I'm chanting for Orton. And, we had a couple loyal listeners that were like, why, Eddie? Why would you say that? And it's like, well, no offense, but I'll chant for anyone who isn't The Miz. Hell, even his dad was kind of like, yeah, whatever, do what you will with him.
I did enjoy the acting of his mom.
Well, that was the thing, and even Catherine pointed that out to me. She loved the fact that the mother was overacting, whereas the father was selling Heartbreak, like, Ultimate Warrior sold the pedigree at WrestleMania 12. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. It's like, all right, think of your top faces in the company right now. And sometimes I think we have too many faces, and then I don't know who our faces are because there's no real established storyline with a lot of the guys in the back. Like, all right, can we, for example, at the pay-per-view, why is Kofi Kingston still wrestling for the Intercontinental Championship?
Said it best, lifelong Intercontinental Champion.
He is. He's a career Intercontinental Champion. Like, if I'm Kofi, I'm really depressed right now because I'm essentially, for what it's worth, Kofi is essentially the Shamrock of modern day. I remember I had a neighbor, an next-door neighbor, Derek, who used to wrestle under his name Slater, and I remember I said to him, because I was reading an article in Raw Magazine, and it was an article with a picture of Shamrock wearing the Intercontinental title, and I asked him, like, why does Shamrock always wrestle for that title? Like, what's like the attachment to the title? And he just kind of looks at me, being in his 20s at the time and being, an indie wrestler, just kind of looks and goes, because that's the only title they're going to give him. It kind of broke my heart. So, like, thinking about it, yeah, like, for, Shamrock winning the final title, and was like, I'm still getting something. And I don't think it says much about Kofi as a performer, because he is a really good performer. Granted, I think he needs a little more in terms of character tweaking and a moveset, but he's entertaining and he's likable. I don't understand why you just kind of sequester him to, like, mid-card and, like, all right, Kofi, we have two choices this week, Intercontinental or United States Championship. Take your pick.
I would have rather seen him become the Heyman guy. Like, that would have been more interesting.
Yeah. Or even Ziggler. Like, I think they had, I forget what it was. Before Raw, it was that Night of Champions Mark Ziggler's 100th loss.
Yeah.
Like, wow. I mean, that is, like, that's not, like, falling from grace. That's plummeting. Oh, my God. Why didn't we get a rematch of Dean Ambrose and Ziggler the next night?
I don't know. It was non-title, too, right?
That's what confused me, because I'm like, all right, so you have them wrestle on a pay-per-view for the title, and Ziggler doesn't win it, and then they wrestle for the non-title, but why did they make a point of saying, and still, United States Champion? I was confused. I'm like, wait a second. Was that a title match? Were they being secretive about it? Were they trying to be like, okay, don't tell them it's for the title because they're going to know we ripped them off? I mean, it's just nothing really stood out. Aside from the locker room, making the save, and of course the Usos were the first ones to run in, which I'm sure Catherine was. But that's the other thing. Even the tag matches, it's like, why did we get a repeat of the tag turmoil match? I don't understand it. I don't understand the logic.
They were lazy at the booking, and they were just like, we'll just play the same show again. A couple different things will change here and there, but
correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that what WWE accused of being the downfall of WCW, which was essentially never give away pay-per-view caliber matches for free?
Pretty much.
I'm asking an honest question. I'm not trying to be
smart. No. You're pretty much right on there.
I mean, that's what I was asking at the pay-per-view. Like, that used to be the cool thing, and I was saying to somebody, and I'm sorry, everybody, when I'm on Twitter with you on Monday, by Thursday when we record, like, Jason's tweeted so goddamn much I can't find our conversations, and I just forget. But I had said to somebody, like, I seem to remember in days of yore, back in the day, when you would do a pay-per-view, and then you would take, competitors from, say, the singles matches on the card, and you would put them in a tag team match. You would do something different from what you had served the fans the night before.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where it's like, why is it lazy booking on Raw when it's like you had all these superstars that were performing, and you could just as easily make it a tag match, or if you're going to do the match again, give it a stipulation, give it something different, something fresh. Fuck, take, two guys, they wrestled the night before the pay-per-view, and you want to continue the feud, so have him wrestle another superstar from another one of those singles matches, and make the opponent of one of those singles matches the guest referee. So, like, you had Dean Ambrose and you had Ziggler for the United States Championship, so why not have, Dean Ambrose wrestle, I don't know, Fandango, and have Ziggler be the guest referee?
Yeah.
And make it for the title, and have Ziggler screw Dean Ambrose out the title, and bam, you have a triple threat the next pay-per-view. Something, anything. I don't care if you're listening to this being like, that's a dumb idea. Hey man, at least it's an idea. I mean, that's the opposite of creative has nothing for you. Well, creative's got a shit ton for you, but nobody wants to do it because, that's thinking outside the box, man. Let's just regurgitate what we already gave them. Like, and somebody made a crack like, oh, Vince is a genius. Well, his daughter and his son-in-law aren't doing too well. Okay, Vince may not be in charge on television, but he still runs the company.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Triple H and Stephanie do not have full control of the company. Even though they do on TV, they don't realize Vince, and it's a well-known thing, everything needs to be 100% approved by Vince. So if anyone is to blame here, it's the genius behind it.
Yeah. If Vince wanted to, tomorrow he could fire Triple H and Steph.
Oh, hell yeah. You can do whatever you want. Hell, and there's still that rumor floating around. If Shane McMahon, his only son, decides to come back, if he really wanted to, I don't see why Shane couldn't be hired on and have just as much power as the two of them.
Yeah. I don't know where he fits. I don't know the family dynamic, the backstage family dynamic.
I'm not gonna even so much as speculate or presume that I know the relationship between Vince and Shane. From what I've seen, and I can only say this as a fan who goes on websites, from what I've seen in photographs and what I've seen in interviews, it seems like the two of them are very close.
Yeah. I've always heard the reason Shane left was because he wanted a life, and he knew he was basically going to be Steph and Triple H's, bitch in the company if he stayed.
Well, because, again, Shane is Vince's only son, but Steph is also Daddy's girl.
And married to one of the top performers.
Yeah, and it's a performer. And again, Vince, you can search the web. Vince has a lot of love for the Clique. I mean, there's that video floating around of Vince presenting HBK with the Hall of Fame ring. Gives him a giant hug, kisses him on the cheek, and I'm sure they have a very sincere father-son kind of relationship. I mean, where you have your son-in-law is Shawn Michaels' best friend, and he's a guy you genuinely admire. I think Vince is a genius. I think he makes a lot of crappy decisions, but I don't think, it's a bad idea having not only your daughter's husband, but also someone who's been a top star in your company for years and years and years as someone you would want to kind of take over the reins for you when you decide to hang it up and say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because Triple H, say what you will about him as a TV villain, in real life, the guy knows his shit. He's well known in the locker room as being a guy who knows the business and is being very proactive in his involvement with the company.
Exactly.
And this is before he met Stephanie. So take all your crap for Triple H. I mean, we make jokes all the time. Hell, we call the show Be a Star, Carry a Shovel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can say what you will about him, but he sounded like a really diligent guy who, it wasn't that he wanted to be sycophantic at all. He just really loved the business. He wanted to know the business in and out because, I'm sorry, but that's brilliant because how long of a shelf life do most pro wrestlers have? Unless they're your Ric Flairs or your Hulk Hogan's and they're going to try...
5 years?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I think realistically you probably get 20, but in terms of being at the big show, being in WWE, I think when you hit a streak, it's about what most bands get, when they first make it, is you got about maybe 3 or 4 albums in you. So over a span of 4 to 5 years. And then after that, I mean, not everybody's going to be the Rolling Stones, but who wants to be the Rolling Stones? You know what I mean? Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair are the Rolling Stones of wrestling. In that you'll still pay to see them because it's a name, but it doesn't live up to the expectation of what the name represented.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, you could do the same when Roddy Piper won the tag titles years ago. I mean, was that something we really needed to see? I mean, yeah, he's Roddy Piper, but Roddy Piper was well past his prime at that point.
Yeah. It's nice to stick on the back of a baseball card that he's a former tag champ, but he's not going down in the Hall of Fame as a great tag team wrestler.
No, I mean, Roddy Piper went to the Hall of Fame as a great speaker. I mean, do I think it's a shame he never held the WWF or the WWE title? Absolutely, but I mean, I don't think he really needed it, if you want my honest opinion. I thought Roddy Piper was a good enough character that's his legacy. He's a great character.
It was a different time, too.
Oh, hell yeah, it was a much different time than it is now.
Storylines were whole years as opposed to a month, 2 months.
Well, I had asked, and that was what the call was in regard to, was, I mean, if Daniel Bryan constantly winning the title and having it stripped of him, like, the following night or, like, the following second, are they kind of, I mean, I know it's for the sake of the storyline and they want the big, like, Austin WrestleMania payoff for Daniel Bryan, but in this day and age, is that going to kind of hurt him?
I don't think so. I think it just builds people. Like, nobody's booing Daniel Bryan. The point you're doing here is to get Daniel Bryan over, and they've done that. And each week, and you're like, not a fucking again. Like, just let him hold it for, like, you know what I mean? Like, till the next pay-per-view. Let him have the fucking title. Like, I don't know. It's like that Eddie Murphy line, like, joke.
I'm a realist. But I tell you, I want to make love, and they make you wait, and you wait and wait and wait and wait, and you just keep on waiting, you just wait, and finally, she gives you some. And it's the best you ever had in your life. This was it. This was the feeling I've been searching for. I finally made love. You didn't make love, it just felt real good. You know why? Because you waited 5 months for it. If you're starving and somebody throw you a cracker, you're going to be like this. God damn, that's the best cracker I've ate in my life. That ain't no regular cracker, was it? What was that, a saltine? God damn, that was delicious. That wasn't no saltine, no, that was the Ritz. That wasn't no Ritz. I said, God, that's the best cracker I've ate in my life.
Yeah, I know that bit. As soon as I heard it, like, oh, I know exactly what he's going for here. Well, that makes me ask the question again, 978-276-9418. Could the Mick Foley or the Mankind versus Rock feud have worked in this day and age? Because essentially that's what we're getting out of Orton and Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
It's honest to God, it's the same feud regurgitated.
It's the outcast versus, you know, the body and the superstar. Or
it's basically, it's the franchise versus, it's Caddyshack. It's the snobs versus the slobs. Essentially, you could say it about this angle, but you'd have to say it about Mankind. It's essentially, they watched Caddyshack and thought, wait a second, that's a good idea. I mean, I think it's not new and it's not innovative, but it still works. I think it's my opinion on it. It still works. I mean, it's the underdog story. You can't. This is the thing about wrestling where people cry like, "Oh, it's so uncreative." It's the common story in all of literature or film. It's the underdog. Like, what good is a Daniel Bryan title reign going to be? Like, to be honest with you, when Big Show beat Mark Henry, won the world title, and then everybody was chanting for Daniel Bryan to come out, he didn't do anything. He came out and he just pinned Big Show, and it was that. It wasn't an underdog story. It was, yeah, we're glad he won the Money in the Bank, but that's why I still really hate Money in the Bank, because it sullies the whole underdog story of, like, you got this briefcase, so cool. It's the hardcore 24/7 title all over it. I miss the day when, like, you really wanted to see an outcast or an unlikely candidate win the title. Like, and we can all say because Eddie Guerrero, but like when Rey Mysterio won the Rumble and then won the World Heavyweight title, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And he's not my favorite wrestler, but it was what it represented. It finally kind of changed. I don't know. It just felt like it was a new direction that anyone could win this title now. Which that's what makes it exciting. Is why are we, kind of keeping it so that only the bigger and the more chiseled athletes can only win this title? Like, why can't, if you work for the company and you're an active competitor, why can't anyone take a shot for it? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that goes back to the fact that Shawn Michaels is not a big guy, and that dogged him for most of his career. But when he won the title, man, that was a big deal, because the guy that was getting crapped on for, his lack of, like, dare I say, like impressive physique, but he was still an amazing wrestler. He had some amazing matches, and there's a reason why they call him the icon, the showstopper. Am I saying that that's what Daniel Bryan will become? No, but I mean, why can't he?
Yeah.
Why not afford him the opportunity to at least try? And I actually did like the fact that Triple H did bring up the fact that Shawn Michaels did train Daniel Bryan, because I'm kind of curious to see if Shawn comes back and has something to say about that.
Exactly. That's going to be interesting. And I don't know if you've seen online, there's rumors that he's supposedly coming back soon.
Well, Shawn's never leaving the company. That's the thing. He may not be an active competitor, but he will never leave. Especially as long as his best friend is married to Stephanie McMahon and is eventually going to take over the company, Shawn Michaels is going to be somewhere. I don't know. Like, it's funny, too, because that's another thing. Like, are we still going to get excited to see Shawn Michaels even if he's not competing?
I don't know. It's becoming the Austin thing now, where it's like, yay, he comes out on the ATV and drinks beer, and, well, don't expect a match out of him, but, you know.
I love that you said that, because I remember for years people used to give me crap because I'd say, I'm so tired of Austin. Like, dude, either have a match or don't. I'm sick and tired of them booking matches with him and him not showing up. In a way, I kind of don't want Austin to have another match. As much as we talk about, like, Austin Punk or Austin Lesnar or whatever, I think it works to Austin's credit that he doesn't wrestle. Because, I don't know, like, it just felt like there was so much time in between where he was the GM or then he was the sheriff. Like, you want to talk shitty storylines. Austin the sheriff, that was one of the worst, hands down.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of felt like that Survivor Series match where it was almost poetic that Shawn Michaels was, you know, looking like he was going to be the sole survivor, and he's the reason why Austin got let go. I kind of felt like Austin, it should have just died right then and there.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I didn't enjoy the Austin as the co-GM storyline. I thought him and Bischoff had an amazing dynamic. That was one of the most fun storylines I think WWE had in a long time. I mean, I could be wrong.
No, I'm with you.
I said it before. I think Jason's more knowledgeable wrestling, but I'm always curious when I throw this stuff at him to see if he's like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, I'm with you. That definitely was a better Austin, but it's just over time where it's like, we've seen this act before, and, you know, if you're on my television, that means somebody else isn't getting an opportunity.
Well, that was like, you know, when the Godfather came in the Rumble, and he literally was booted out right before he entered the ring. And from what I read, that's what canceled out the Shelton Benjamin. To be honest with you, I would have rather have seen, like, you know, 10 minutes of Shelton Benjamin than 5 seconds of the Godfather.
Yeah.
I could be alone in that because he is the Godfather, and no matter what age you are, the second you hear that music, you're the asshole sitting on the couch going, oh, great. Like, you get into it because it's so ingrained in your memory, that character, that you're happy to see him. Like, he's back, he's got the hose, like, it's fun, but at the same time, like, it's not going to be the same thing as it was in the 90s because this is the PG era. You think they're really going to have a pimp come out in the PG era?
They didn't refer to them as hoes. It was ladies. So.
But we're not stupid because we know who the Godfather is, and even kids now. All right, you see this guy come out, he's got, like, a line of women with him. He's not a playboy, he's a pimp. Like, I mean, I don't know how much you're going to try and sugarcoat that. Really, the only two surprise entrants from that year that I loved were Goldust and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, because you had no idea it was coming, and even Goldust, you had no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
But I mean, is that even with Goldust? You get kind of tired of seeing Goldust because that's almost his role in the company too. Is like when they kind of feel like they need somebody from that era to come back. It's like, well, we keep firing this guy, but he keeps coming back. So, all right, where's Goldust today?
I mean, Rumble is when you can get away with that stuff. It kills time. You're like, oh shit, I haven't seen this guy in like 3 years. Fine, but to bring him back for, I don't know, a year stint, and it's like, well, we really didn't do anything with him. You know, we made a big hype when he came back, and then, you know, he's working the pre-match for the show, the dark match for the show, or...
Well, I mean, do you kind of feel that way? Because I know you're probably going to say no, because I know you have such a mark for him. That's kind of how I feel about RVD right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what he is.
You don't want to say because you love RVD. I mean, I love him just as much as the next wrestling fan who grew up watching him in ECW, but let's face it, they made such a big to-do about RVD coming back. They put him in one of the Money in the Bank matches, and it's like, okay, now Ricardo's his manager. Oh, and his championship match at Night of Champions ended in a 5 count. All right, well, RVD had his hand on the rope, and he wouldn't break the submission, so disqualification.
Yeah.
Like, I get it because RVD's contract allows him to work, I think it was like 9 months out of the year or something like that, or 90 days rather. and then he'll work his 90 days, he'll take a sabbatical, and then he'll come back. But what's the point?
I don't know.
Why put him in title matches then? I understand that. I think they're trying to do the same thing they do with Jericho. And I saw this phenomenal, interview recently with Jericho talking to someone. He was like, I'm happy with my place in that company because, he had talked about being in, I think it was WCW, and just the veterans not wanting to put over the young blood. And he's like, I kind of made a vow to myself, that's what I wanted to do if given the opportunity. If I could consider myself, or somebody could consider me a veteran, that's what I wanted to give back to the company.
Yeah.
And I get that maybe that's what RVD's doing, but then keep him out of title matches. I mean, don't make the fans believe. And I mean, I agree with you. I think it would have made sense to give RVD the title. And I just bitched about this because I hate Money in the Bank, but give him the title and just have Sandow cash in and pin RVD and get the title. And then that way you can kind of write RVD off TV, give him his break, and he can come back and it's whatever.
Well, supposedly there's a rematch at the next pay-per-view, so...
Again, I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be his last televised match for a while before he goes on sabbatical. So,
well, he probably will do just that, though, is win the belt and then Sandow cash in.
I mean, it would be interesting. Sandow's going to cash in sooner than later. I mean, but that's the thing. Is Sandow ready for that title? And if he gets it, does it... I mean, again, I think that's a throwaway title, if you ask me. Like, I don't know. Like, I think Sandow's entertaining as hell, but... is he going to be like the next Jack Swagger? And when we started doing this show, I was high on Jack Swagger going into the Del Rio match because I thought
Hi.
Pun intended. No, I really liked it. I thought it was interesting, and it kind of went back to Sergeant Slaughter being a sympathizer of, was it Iran or Iraq? And we were in the Gulf War at that time, and it was an intense storyline and it made sense because you had Hulk Hogan, the real American, against a guy who, was represented. He was on G.I. Joe. Like, this was Sergeant Slaughter. He represented America as a soldier, and he's sympathizing with our enemy at the time.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked the fact that there was like a Tea Party angle with Swagger, but now it's like the whole We the People thing. It's like, all right, dude, I don't care anymore. Like, it could have worked. I think he screwed himself over. And storylines like that really only work on WrestleMania level, and then after that, just let it go. So, I mean, I don't know. Unless they have something else up their sleeve for Cesaro and Swagger, I just don't think it's worth it. I think it's just another excuse to make another tag team. Like, how many tag teams do we have now? Are we up to, 4 or 5?
At least 6, because they did the turmoil match, so...
Either give us more tag, teams, or just, even that, it's I don't know. I'm kind of upset because I love tag team matches, and some of my favorite matches were tag team matches with great teams. But I don't know. Are we kind of at a point where the whole era of tag team wrestling is kind of extinct?
I don't know, because it's like I look at all the tag teams and I don't see myself represented in any of them. You know what I mean?
Well, because, for example, when you have the New Age Outlaws, you could really relate to those guys. I mean, D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry, I thought they were a phenomenal tag team, regardless of what other people say. I thought they were a great tag team.
They were fun to watch, and they were funny and interesting. They gave decent promos, and...
I mean, I guess that's even a question. 978-276-9418. Think about it. In your mind, who or what was the greatest tag team? I think, and oh my God, it was DX that won the poll, and I had such a gripe with those polls, man. Because I'm like, it's obvious that you're trying to favor the face that's most recognizable or most recent in these polls. Because, Jericho, don't get me wrong, I love Jericho, and I think he's definitely up there as being one of the great Intercontinental champions, but he had no business winning that poll. I remember someone was saying to me, well, you can't take him seriously. What do you mean? You don't know the polls are rigged? Yeah, I get it. It's wrestling. It's fake. But still, please don't insult my intelligence.
Yeah, of all the things you could make legit that don't matter, you have to rig these polls.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that DX won Best Tag Team, I'm sorry, Legion of Doom should have had that.
Hands down. It, boggled my mind, where I'm like, all right, is the internet wrestling community just outweighed that much? Or, is it, I don't know, 20 million, I don't know, how old would you be if you were watching, DX? I don't know, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds now that are just like, oh yeah, DX, that was the shit.
Well, I mean, because it's different, too, because our version of DX is much different than, say, my older sister's version, which was started as Helmsley and Michaels and Ravishing Rick Rude. And then mine was Pac, Outlaws, China, Triple H.
Yeah.
And then the bad guy DX, which happened in, and I was talking with some kid, and you could tell he was young because he was like, well, they haven't had a title change hands on Raw unless it was SmackDown going to a different network. Shut up. Like, clearly you're a new fan because over the past 20 years, it doesn't happen frequently, but it does happen. I mean, for example, Triple H winning the title back from Big Show. That happened on a Raw. Vince McMahon won the title from Triple H. That happened on a SmackDown. Kofi Kingston won the U.S. title on a Raw. And that was 5 months ago?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing, too, is the younger fans. The younger fans, when they went back to the reunion of Triple H and Michaels, they've never been a tag team in my mind. They've always just been,
a group.
Friends. Yeah,
Kinda.
a group. A tag team was the Outlaws. They were the tag team of DX.
Yeah.
The other guys were just, the leaders.
Singles.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of them, I laughed so hard over the Sting one. So freaking hard. I couldn't believe that they did that.
I don't know. All the Sting love. Maybe it's to be like, hey, Sting, we love you over here. We would like another shot for you to come over here. Because I do kind of feel like you're running low. The tank is empty, but I do feel like there's room left for a Sting WrestleMania appearance.
Oh, yeah, I'll agree with that. I talked shit about it on the show, and you make cracks with me about it because I'm not the world's biggest TNA fan. Of all the matches at Slammiversary, I actually really thought Bully Ray versus Sting was a great match.
Yeah, they pulled it off. That show would have been shit had that not been the main event.
Well, yeah, I gotta look at it. I mean, if you've been a fan for a while, you gotta look at it through my perspective, which is I've only been to 2 live wrestling events in my life. Well, prior to Slammiversary, I'd only been to 2 live events in my lifetime, both WWE, and I'd never seen Sting live. I've never even seen Hogan live. And granted, he didn't wrestle, but he came out, you heard the music, and you saw him. It was still cool just to say, I have seen Hogan live. And I did get to see Sting wrestle live. It's still cool, and I definitely think that there's, he's buddies, and with a lot of the guys in the locker room, a lot of the veterans, but you also know that in the back of his mind, that's his last mountain to climb, is give me, the one wrestler. I don't know, because while I want to say Sting, Undertaker, neither of them are in their prime. I think that's what made the Bully Ray Sting match work, is that Sting was the veteran, but Bully Ray is still a young talent, despite being in his, 30s or 40s? His 40s. I shouldn't say 30s, that sounds stupid, but in his mid to late 40s, he's still got a lot in the tank, whereas Sting's kind of on the way out. I'm not saying that to insult Sting, to be honest.
No,
I wasn't expecting to be such a fan of Sting. Especially in that match at that pay-per-view, but you're not getting any younger. Wrestling is a young man's game.
I just don't understand how he couldn't want to be you know what? I know what I'm doing. I'll sign a 3-month contract. Let's close the book on a high career note. I've been WrestleMania 30. What a nice way to kind of close that book.
Well, I think it's funny too because it's no secret that TNA is probably going to shut its doors sooner than later. They keep letting talent go. Clearly, they're having financial problems. Lest you fucking people forget, Jason and I were at Aganis Arena for Slammiversary, and I joked on Twitter when Jason said, "Oh, I know Eddie's waiting for this," and it was the image of the Slammiversary DVD, and I joked and I said, "Yeah, they'll have to CGI the applause past the crowd because there was no one in those seats."
Yeah.
And sometimes, all right, I'll raise a TNA question for you. Is it that the product is that bad that nobody cares, or that people are still unaware that the product even exists?
I think it's unaware. I think, I've heard this mentioned in other places. Do you know how much of an appearance for Hulk Hogan on an episode? They do double tapings of Impact, but per episode he gets for each episode. Do you have any idea?
I gotta imagine it's gotta be in the 6 figures.
He gets $30,000 per appearance, per episode. Yeah. That's ridiculous. So in a month, if there's 4 weeks and 1 pay-per-view, I don't know, that's over $100,000.
All right, this is what this is the worst analogy, TV tracks worthy. The general manager mode, I think it was SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. I got a better understanding of this business based on and I've never successfully won General Manager of the Year award in this game because it narrows it down. You have to, basically, if you've never played the game, you have to book Raws in pay-per-views, and you're competing with SmackDown because that's when the brand extension was at its peak. And essentially, like, you sign like deals with your wrestlers, and basically you can decide, like, all right, how do I want the best wrestlers because they're going to cost a lot of money, or, you know, do I do endorsements, whatever, do I do promos to get people more invested? It's actually really funny how, I don't know, real to life it was, because honestly, I'm always going with, like, oh, Hogan versus Undertaker. Everybody wants to see that. The amount of money you have to pay someone versus the amount of money you actually have to pay the rest of the locker room and to put on a show of that caliber, it's ridiculous that he makes that money, and without even wrestling. Yeah. You're going bankrupt just to have a name.
Well, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but supposedly his contract is up at this October 1st. Supposedly. And there's been no mention if he's re-signing.
Well, now, and again, we could do this all night day. 978-276-9418. TNA, is it a matter of just not having a good product, or having a product nobody knows exists? And better yet, what's Hogan do? Once you know, we reach the deadline and he hasn't re-signed, what's Hogan do after this? And is there a likelihood that WWE is going to try and pick him up?
Probably. In some, well, I don't know. Maybe in some capacity. But
does it really matter? I mean, to be honest with you, I think Hogan's reputation is so ruined at this point, given, you know, and don't get me wrong, I actually thought the show was entertaining when it first aired with Hogan Knows Best, but with all of the controversy and the sort of, I'll call it the X-Pac heat against his daughter, and then the ugly divorce he had, the Rolling Stone article talking about sympathizing with OJ,
his son
in the car accident. Like, I mean, I hate to say it because it's not really fair, because wrestling's meant to be entertainment, but like anything else, it's like when you have a favorite band and you meet your favorite band, or the lead singer of the band makes a comment that you're just like, why did you do that? You're over. Like, you have to keep in mind that a lot of the reason why people want to believe in their favorite wrestlers is because deep down they want to think that they're as good in real life as they are on television.
Yeah.
I think that's why people can't separate Mr. McMahon the character from Vince McMahon the person, or Triple H the character versus Paul the person, because they're so convincing on screen that you just assume that's how they are in real life. And, you know, that espoused with the rumors that you read in dirt sheets about them. I mean, it's interesting. Like, for example, like last night I was watching a shoot interview with Just Incredible, and really I was watching some shoots, and I was kind of, because I'm still curious about, like, the mystery of Undertaker, or Mark Calloway as a person, because he's such a private person. I mean, one of my sister's friends is a huge overzealous wrestling fan, and she used to travel to different states and follow the wrestlers around to hotels and stuff like that, because she's creepy like that. And she had said she had actually met The Undertaker, and he requested no photos be taken of him. And it wasn't in like a douchebag kind of way. It was in a way that he's so adamant to maintain both his character, but his private image as a father and as a husband, that he didn't want to put himself in any kind of compromising position, both career-wise and personally, that it does make him an enigma. So I was kind of searching around for anyone that had anything on Undertaker, and I came across this shoot interview, Just Incredible. Just Incredible said I think he was 19 when he first entered, and you would know, I know he was in WWF for a short stint. What was the character? I'm trying to think.
Aldo Montoya.
Yeah. And I'm assuming it was when he was playing that character that he was telling a story of how he was on a plane and Undertaker gave him acid. And I'm thinking, like, already in my mind, like, Undertaker did acid? It's weird, because it's the fact that Undertaker's human makes him funny. It's like, oh my god, you don't picture someone like The Undertaker doing acid because he's such a great reputation. Not so that acid should ruin it. And how, so Just Incredible took acid, and Undertaker just kind of looked at him, you know, hey, Petey. And he would just, like, do things to freak him out. And it just made me like the guy more, because you know so little about him. I mean, I've seen pictures of his son and stuff like that, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I still like The Undertaker as a person. He just seems like a really cool guy. And if you've seen that interview where he did the Make-A-Wish for the little girl, and he was so just down to earth and humble, and so, like, I don't want to say that because it's a word that wrestling is like, oh, what a pussy, but he was so cute with the little girl that you're just like, man, like, when he retires, it's gonna suck. I'm sorry, I will bawl my eyes out when The Undertaker retires, because he just seems like he deserves it, but he seems like such a nice guy. But that's what keeps me wanting to see The Undertaker wrestle, even though I think he's at the point where he had said in another interview, like, I kind of hope someone will be honest with me and tell me to hang it up when I don't have what makes me special anymore.
Yeah.
But that's the Undertaker's the antithesis to Hogan in that regard, because he seems like a likable person and he's such a great character that now it's like I don't really care about Hogan because he seems like such a colossal prick. And dare I say, like, I actually, and people have talked so much shit about Warrior over the years, but I was kind of, when Warrior did those shoot interviews on YouTube after Macho Man died, kind of giving it to Nash and giving it to Hogan, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm not just saying this because I'm a huge fanboy or a mark for Warrior. He doesn't think, I know Warrior's kind of a prick himself, but I kind of feel like there's a reason why Warrior's a prick.
Yeah. I also think Warrior is slightly, you know, I don't want to say crazy, but, you know, he's weird.
Okay, I'll put it simply, he legally changed his name to Warrior, enough said.
Exactly.
But, you could call that crazy. Sometimes I think that's how he's able to retain all his intellectual rights to that brand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I know one of our Twitter followers shouted me out in making a Warrior comment, so we'll get to those in a minute. But I don't know. Like, I just, if Hogan doesn't re-sign with TNA, do I give a shit if he comes to WWE? Not really. I don't think the company needs him.
I can tell you a better way to spend $30,000 each episode. Go get Jim Ross. Put him into position of power.
Okay, well, here's another question. I'll ask the fans too at MO Commentary. And fuck, please like our Facebook page, Mark Commentary. Ask us questions there even. I would love to see more activity there, or even in the blogs. Like, give us ideas for blogs that you want to read. But and that's marksonblogging.blog.com. Do you think there would be a backlash from fans if Ross went to TNA? Because I know some fans are kind of like, you know what, the ultimate middle finger to WWE is for Ross to go to TNA and save that company.
I know. It's like, for years, you know, Jim Ross is a smart guy in this business. Everybody knows that. Does he have it within him to do it at this age? I think he does. I would love, and it is like you said, like the big middle finger to Vince McMahon, because they've never gotten along.
Which, it doesn't make sense, and I know Mark Madden is huge on this, and a lot of other people on the internet and a lot of veterans say the reason why Vince hates Jim Ross so much is because Vince is a businessman. He's not, he knows the company, and clearly Vince knows his shit, otherwise the company would not have survived as long as it is. He's got a great business acumen. He surrounds himself with, as CM Punk say, glad-handing sycophants, but he knows enough about wrestling that he's made this franchise last. However, JR knows more than Vince, and that pisses Vince off. And JR, and it's just so funny to me, because it's like, why are you depriving the fans of JR's brilliance? Like, I joke all the time with friends, and I say, man, I would love to have JR commentate my life, because that guy could make anything interesting. It's like when you're listening to someone who's a great singer, and you say, wow, man, they could sing the phone book, and I'd be interested. Jim Ross could literally, I could wake up and have Rice Krispies tomorrow, and if Jim Ross is commentating, I guarantee you it would not be as boring as I just made it sound. And that Rackle and Pop, oh my God! Like, it's just his presence and his knowledge of the company. He's fantastic at what he does. I'll put it this way: I would actually watch TNA if Jim Ross signed with TNA.
Yeah. Put him on commentary with Taz and Tenay, and have him in a position of power. And I bet you that company would do so much better.
Keep him off commentary, just make him a character.
But he adds so much to the show, just being there.
The commentator, but all right, here's the reason why we don't think he adds a lot of the character, because Vince never allowed him to add much of the character.
Yeah.
You never got to see Jim Ross really come into his own as a character. If you allow, because he's a phenomenal journalist, he's a phenomenal commentator. Why not take Hulk Hogan's $30,000, give it to JR, and to quote HBK, only good things could happen. Only good things could come of that. And I know, from what I've read and what I've seen of Jim Ross, he's a really down-to-earth guy, and he's got a lot of integrity. And I think for the love of guys like Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Taker, I don't think he would do it, because if he did it immediately, it's to tell Vince, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be a really interesting sort of thing, is Jim Ross and TNA.
Of any interesting move, that's the only interesting move they could make.
Well, at the same same time, too, if they did it, could it be kind of construed as a move of desperation on Dixie's part?
I think it would have to be, but I think it would be the smartest thing she could do.
I think that's what I really... Because, again, and you said it yourself, when TNA first came out, I was glued to it because it was fresh, it was new, it wasn't ubiquitous yet, it wasn't... to me, it started off as kind of like an ECW. It was the little industry that could. And it just got too convoluted with veterans and, washouts and just...
It tried to be too big too fast.
Yeah, you wanted too much too soon, and it cost you. There's a reason why WWE can come to Boston and every time sell out TD Garden, even if it's just for a house show, and TNA can't even fill the Agganis Arena.
Yeah.
And again, if you're not from the area of Massachusetts, I'm telling you, Agganis Arena it's the diet TD Garden. But I mean, if you sell out the TD Garden, it's not quite Madison Square Garden, but it's close. And I again, you can shit on me because I've never been to Madison Square Garden. That's on my bucket list, but it's not hard to sell out Agganis Arena. You know what I mean? It's like there's a small part of me that was like, I'm shocked that TNA, the Paradise Rock Club, like that's kind of like when you were like, dude, there's gonna be a TNA baby, and the first thing I thought was like, all right, what's the smallest club? Are they gonna be a TT the Bears? It's gonna be a small thing. It's gonna be cramped in there. Are they gonna play a VFW hall? And I did take a picture. I didn't post it because I knew we were gonna probably lose a lot of followers on Twitter. We're gonna lose a lot of listeners, but. When I went to Chaotic Wrestling with Catherine, I took a picture and I went, you know what the difference between an indie show and TNA is? There's actually people here. I don't know. I think it's interesting. Do we want to get to our Twitter questions?
Yeah, we can run through them quick. There's not a ton of them.
Okay, well, if you want to read them out, because I don't have them in front of me. So.
Let me pull them up.
Again, I love talking to you guys on Twitter. I got to say, even though it was painstaking to get through Raw, here's the thing though, I don't want you to be Twitter followers, I want you to be listeners because I want more interaction out of you guys. I know the majority of you that are Twitter followers and listeners, you guys are awesome. Absolutely awesome, and I love it. Please don't take everything that Jason or I write so seriously.
Yeah. That's the thing, it's like, we'll never talk down to you. We might try very hard to show you our points, but I'm never going to talk down to you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even the kid that I was talking to, he was like, well, there's never been... I didn't talk down to him because, you know what, I don't know how old he is. He looks pretty young, but he only knows as much as he's kind of grown up to watch it. So I'm not going to be like, well, I'm an expert. Because I say regularly. Half the time I'm on Twitter, I'm, like, expecting someone to be like, you're a fraud. Yeah, I kind of am.
All right. First one. At In Your Case, favorite ECW moment?
I still gotta say when Raven was crucified.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was one of my favorites. Just because it was so taboo and it was so, I don't know. It was very ECW. It was very like bingo hall, public access. It was. I don't know. It was exciting. It was cool. It was different. It was dangerous.
Definitely.
Obviously, you gotta have a ton being the rest. Guru that you are.
I always love Sandman's return to ECW after he left for WCW.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like, wow, they're back on track.
I mean, he's another one, though. He was not a good wrestler, in my opinion, but he was such a phenomenal character and had such a presence. I mean, I just remember loving just the whole Enter Sandman, hits, he's making his way through the crowd, smashes the beer can over his face, and he's wheeled him kendo stick. He wasn't a great wrestler, but man, he had a presence.
Yeah. Actually posting that right now. Sorry.
All right.
Let me grab another one. Logan Landers wants to know if you could bring back a defunct promotion, what would it be?
I'm going to start off with you, because I'm going to pull the most obvious answer ever.
I'm going to pull a promotion that I think only got past one or two shows that I think would have been cool to really see play out. I've heard it talked about a couple of other places. I guess before Heyman started ECW, he was working with Jim Crockett, who had sold off his share of WCW and NWA, and was looking to start something new, and I forget the name of the promotion, but basically it was going to be an online, this is 1993, 92. They were going to do like some high definition web streaming wrestling company. And I guess there was a couple guys like Tommy Dreamer and Taz that were going to be a part of it. And because it fell through, he was able to go on to do ECW and everything like that. I'm curious. I don't know. I've kind of always been curious what Paul Heyman would have made that company look to be.
All right, now I'm thinking, do I want to be a sarcastic asshole and Dad bring TNA back? Or do I want to be the naive asshole that says I would bring WCW back? You know what? And I'll be honest with you, the reason I'd want to bring WCW back because I want WWE to actually have a competitor.
Yeah.
I want them to have a legitimate competitor. And the big obvious answer is bring back ECW. It'll never happen. I tell Jason, and Jason fights me. It was lightning in a bottle.
I agree.
It was the grunge music of its time. When WWE brought it back, I knew the second I was seeing the advertisements on Sci-Fi, I'm like, it's going to crash and burn. You're going to get maybe 2 or 3, young guys out of it, one of which was Punk, and that's the best thing you're going to get out of it. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. It's a total waste of time.
I think you can bring the spirit of it back. I think there's a market right now for that kind of wrestling, not necessarily the same guys.
Well, here's the thing, and I wish that Catherine had included this in her blog, and she didn't, but it was her blog, so I should have written a blog, but I was joking with her because she said you looked really bored when we went to Chaotic Wrestling. I said, it wasn't I was bored. I was, as a fan and as an observer, I was kind of laughing to myself because I remember going to see my neighbor Derek with Slater at the Wakefield Town Hall. And because it was the Attitude Era, the event was full of weapons. It ended in everybody landing on thumbtacks and tables and everything else. And then I go to Chaotic Wrestling, and it was very PG oriented. There was a lot of young kids in that crowd.
Yeah.
And I was kind of laughing because I'm like, it's funny to be a 12-year-old and going and seeing like hardcore wrestling at a Wakefield Town Hall, and then being 26 and going to a VFW in Woburn, and just the way that WWE kind of dictates the zeitgeist of wrestling. And I remember the whole time wondering, like, what would happen if somebody brought out a flaming table or some thumbtacks? Is there a demand? And yeah, we're not worth asking. The fans, from the 90s, whether they're in their 50s, their 30s, or they're our age, aren't worth asking because, frankly, we all know the obvious answer. We're primed for another WCW. That's the equivalent of talking to a metal fan who's saying, like, oh, yeah, we're still going to have another metal movement. No, you're not. It's not the 80s anymore. Like, metal had its time, and it was fleeting, and it was phenomenal, and it was exciting, and it was dangerous. But you're never going to be able to recreate, say, like your Metallicas, your Megadeths, your, Biohazards, whatever. That was easy. You're never going to be able to recreate that. It was great while it lasted. It's time to move on. But I don't know. I feel stuck because I almost feel like half the time, like when I was at Chaotic Wrestling, and it was an interesting show because those guys were giving it their all. They were absolutely giving it their all. And I know Catherine's really lobbying to get 2 of those guys to be interviewed, and I'm excited to talk to them, just to talk to guys that this is what they want to do.
Yeah.
But it was hard to kind of ignore the fact that indie wrestling is dictated by mainstream wrestling. And I kind of felt like, which was the better indie show that I've been to? The one where it was really hardcore wrestling involved, and, I remember chanting with 2 of my friends "asshole" at a guy who was supposed to be a heel, and one of the promoters, like, lifting his hands up, like, yeah, keep going. And you didn't have that at this indie show because that was that's the zeitgeist of wrestling, and that was very PG, family-oriented, and friendly. Like, your parents, if they take you to an indie show on a Friday night in Woburn, they know that your kid's not gonna leave with the kind of experience I left with, which was we were running under the ring after the show, and I remember one of my friends grabbed a license plate that was bent in half because one of the wrestlers crushed over another wrestler's head. And, he took it home and he showed his parents, like, oh my God, this is so awesome. The parents are horrified. They did. What? I don't know. It's interesting to me. As much as I would love to see it come back, like, just the spirit of that organization, I don't think we're ever going to get it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I still kind of hope that Shane Douglas and his Extreme Rising promotion can somehow pull their shit together and put something together. Because
He'll be, and with all due respect to Shane Douglas, I'd love to get the guy on the show.
Oh yeah,
You know,
could happen. I've had a brief, like everything.
After game, bro.
Yeah, when that happens.
But if you Shane, Raw. That's all I'm gonna say. What happened? You were that asshole kid at the pep rally that thought, man, if I jump out of my seat with an AR t-shirt, man, it's gonna be like the Smells Like Teen Spirit video all over again. And I would love to see it. I think Shane Douglas is a phenomenal. I think he's got a great mind. He's a phenomenal performer, but you just gotta find the right way to promote it. You gotta find the right way to promote it, and you gotta hit it on the nail. The timing is everything. So what else we got for Twitter questions before I go off on a tangent?
Let me see what else do I got. At Dan Kyasis, I think. Sorry. Yeah, if I mispronounce it. Do you have a favorite WWE produced documentary, DVD, Blu-ray?
I thought that, I don't know numbers. I'm sure certain wrestlers have like an innumerable amount of DVDs. There was whatever the latest Shawn Michaels one was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. I was glued to that documentary.
Yeah.
I still think, I mean, I'm not a fan, but I still think the evolution of Viper, that one was phenomenal.
That was good. Punk's was good.
Punk's was good, but I just feel like because it was Punk, we were almost predestined to love it.
True.
But the Shawn Michaels one was so good because there was so much backstage stuff involved. Like Taker wanted to kick his ass for showing up at a Monday Night Raw taping, and when he was all messed up on pills. I mean, Shawn just got nitty and gritty, man. Like, he let it all hang out on that DVD. And I thought that was great. I thought that was one of the coolest. Obviously, you've got to have, like, a treasure trove of
Yeah, I'm actually looking to see, like, what are some of my favorites? I don't have it, actually, but I've always loved, like, the Three Faces of Foley DVD. That's one of the better ones. It's very short and very quick, but I always thought it was well done.
You know what? I had that on VHS until some asshole friend of mine let his dog eat it. And, of course, the asshole didn't even bother paying me back for it. I really didn't like that one all that much.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think that, what was it, the Greatest Hits and Misses, I thought that was a better one.
Interesting. I just kind of liked how it was produced, and, he's sitting with the Hardy Boys talking about, his career, and I don't know. From a video editor's standpoint, I guess that's what stood out to me.
I gotta cut you off then, because if we're gonna go that old, well, it's not that old school show, Betty. If we're gonna go, like, VHS, I gotta go with a tie between The Undertaker, The Phenom, and The Rock. The Rock VHS was good. I remember that was and at the time, I wasn't even a big Rock fan, and I loved that VHS.
Yeah.
And whichever the Stone Cold DVD was, where, I don't know if it was, I think it was a DVD, I don't know if it was confidential or DVD, when they took us behind the scenes of the last Rock Stone Cold WrestleMania match. And you can find it online, and it's actually awesome.
Yeah. I forget what
it's
that
really
was.
cool because, I mean, it had to deal with, like, Jim Ross revealing that Austin, like, was almost on heart attack levels the night before the event, and how the match ended and Rock thanked Austin and said he loved him. It was just a really cool segment. I didn't see the full DVD. I don't even know if it was from a DVD or if it was...
I think it's on the Mania 19 DVD.
Well, because I know, too, and this is something I want to add, because I actually really like the show. Confidential, they're thinking of bringing it back. They're asking fans about it on WWE.com.
That would be awesome. I actually have the DVD.
Okay.
Yeah, they made like one DVD. It was Volume 1, and they never made Volume 2.
Well, that was like, I was really let down, because I remember I bought the Best of Raw Volume 1, and I had waited for years and years for Volume 2 because I really wanted to see the Mick Foley Worcester match. And it came out, and of course it came out right as I kind of got out of wrestling for a little bit. And then I thought, I was like, damn it, if I only held on. Alright, what else we got for Twitter?
Let me go through some more. Yeah, we read that one. TNA one. Amazing DLP 23. You're probably not going to be answer. Why does Manic show... That's the guy who was playing Suicide. They changed his name to Manic. Show his face sometimes, but other times he wears the mask. It is kind of a weird thing. Like...
Yeah, no, I remember him in Suicide because he was at the pay-per-view, and I actually really liked him.
Yeah.
I thought he was entertaining. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
I mean, it's... like, masks aren't comfortable to wear.
Oh, hell no. And I mean, you know, the first question I want to ask Kane, I'm sure it's one he gets asked a lot, Glenn Jacobs. How in the hell have you done, like, how have you wrestled your entire career with a mask, number one? Number two, which version of Kane do you like more? When you could finally take the mask off, granted you had to sacrifice your eyebrows and your hair. But which version of Kane were you more comfortable with? Honestly, I think you'd probably go without the mask, but
I don't know. I imagine like it's not like some cheap Spencer's gift shit mask. I imagine it's got to like breathe and like maybe can hold like I don't know. Maybe he puts it in the freezer or something like that. I don't know.
well, that would be interesting. And you know, you could laugh at Jason like, "Oh, he puts in the fucking freezer." You realize that like the actors at Disney World, like the you know Plutos and whatever, the Goofies, they actually have fans built into those outfits because it gets fucking hot. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's the thing you gotta wonder too. Is like Kane in the mask, and they have wrestled overseas to support the troops and stuff like that. And that kind of degree of, and I'm not gonna like, yeah, obviously soldiers and the army fatigues and the baggage and the guns and all that. Like, you know, one of my best friends, her husband was an army ranger, and I used to just think, oh my god, in that fucking weather, how the hell does he do it? But imagine you're a wrestler, and it's like 100 and some fucking degrees out, and you're in a mask. Like, I gotta imagine that would be uncomfortable as shit.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting one.
I'm sure there's tricks. We'll kind of wrap up with well, we kind of already answered that. Craig Herman wants to know about Hogan's contract finishing up in October. Where does TNA go from here? I'd say pay JR.
Yeah.
That's the smartest move you can make.
What was the one that I think it might have been Logan Landers? I forget, but he was asking about the Daniel Bryan thing. I only want to say this because he gave me a shout out regarding Ultimate Warrior. I think it was basically to the effect of like.
Oh yeah. That's what he did. Who's gonna help out Daniel Bryan? It was the Dan kid.
Dan kid.
Dan kid. Well, we call him Dan now. Yeah. You're part of the show. You're Dan. Who's gonna help out Daniel Bryan? HBK, Stone Cold, Taker, Shane, somebody else, and then he followed up with could it be Ultimate Warrior?
Yeah, this kid. I don't know if that was sarcasm, Mr. Dan. Fuck you. I'm gonna say Warrior. I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say it because, I mean, I was even watching interviews the other day with Punk, and it was at WrestleMania. I think it was during his Jericho match, and he got a direct tweet from Warrior saying, "You only get to live this match once. You only get this night once." You know, what's the Warrior thing? He's got that slogan. I'm totally spacing out on it, but it was basically just believe in it, make it happen.
Yeah.
Come on, like I know people want to crap on Warrior, but dude, wrestling is all about second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th chances. Like, I'm just.
All is forgiven the second you walk through that curtain.
I'm sorry. The second your music hits, I don't care who you are or what your thoughts are. It's all forget. If Vince McMahon can't hold grudges, why do fans?
Yeah.
But it's funny I say that because then I talked about Hogan being kind of unlikable. And saying, well, that kind of ruins his character. But again, I'm a mark, which is an unflattering word. I get this. Idiots of the internet. Ooh, don't like the name of your show. It's a joke. It's irony. Look up irony, you moron. It's as soon as you hear Hogan's theme become to the WWE, of course you're gonna mark out a little because it's fucking Hogan. Yeah. Even if you hate the guy's guts. Fuck, we gave Marty Jannetty. Am I even pronouncing the name right? I don't even know. I'm drinking a little bit. We gave that guy some extra chances. No, Goldust keeps getting chances.
Everybody gets a second chance.
Yeah, well, I mean, Goldust they're wrestlers, dude. Like, you love them. Regardless of what they do, you love them. So. Yeah. Okay, 978-276-9418. Anything we touched upon. I know Jason and I were working on this thing. We didn't actually do it, goddammit.
I know. It fell off the wagon this week. Well, it is coming. We'll get to it.
Well, anyways, we're trying to tease this thing because I won't lie to you. The responses to the contest have been non-existent. So let's ease you into this. To get more listeners and to show you our appreciation for you, we're going to insert a word of the day in our podcast just to prove that you've been listening, and we're going to give you something. If you can tell us what the word of the day is, we'll pick you totally at random. It's not going to be first come, first serve. We will give you something.
Boom.
Bam. Done deal. So, marksonblogging.blog.com, at MO Commentary on Twitter, Marks of Commentary on Facebook.
Instagram,
yeah. And
Vimeo. Sorry, it's there.
We're all over the place, damn it.
www.marksoncommentary.com you can now go to. I fixed that issue.
I'm starting to feel like we're a little like WB in the fact that we're in so many places at once that I forget how many we have.
Now we have to come up with the Marks on Commentary app.
I won't lie to you. I will mark out Fourth the day I see the little Marks Commentary logo on a cell phone. I'm like, oh my god, we have an app.
I'm so proud that I can go to my iTunes podcast listing and see my show next to like Smodcast and like Joe Rogan Experience and shit.
Not that we're anywhere on their level, but it's actually cool. That's the cool thing about it. But again, 978-276-9418. Another question I do want to ask though, because it was pretty popular question on the internet, and I brought this up before. Is there too much wrestling going on with WWE? Because they have their hands in everything now. Is it helping them or is it hurting them? You got Total Divas, you got Main Event, you got SmackDown, you got Raw.
NXT.
There's NXT. They're thinking about bringing back Confidential. How much is too much if it's not on a WWE network? That would be my question.
I don't know. Are you asking me or are they asking the fans?
I'm asking everybody, you included.
See, because I go the route of if you're watching, that's great. If you're not, if you're just a Monday Night Raw and a pay-per-view watcher like me and Eddie pretty much are, you're not really missing much. Nothing integral.
No, not really. I mean, but then again, you can ask Catherine. Catherine's a different story. It's relative. I think that's, again, if you're a fan of wrestling, I think that's something you got to keep in mind. It's all relative.
Yeah.
I mean, Catherine tells me that she suffers from bouts of post-wrestling depression. And meanwhile, I feel like I get my fill every Monday night and the occasional, one Sunday a month. Like, that's my fill. That's what I like because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
You had Raw, you had Heat, you had a pay-per-view. That was it.
Now that you can check the spoilers for SmackDown and see that there really isn't that much going on. Yeah, there might be a great match, but, I'm fucking 27 and it's a commitment to watch, like, every fucking show and sit down, so.
No, I think you just summed it up beautifully. It's not even a commitment to watch wrestling. It's a commitment to watch anything. I mean, there was a study that came out that said, I think it was the Cartoon Network's ratings took a dive because of DVR, whereas shows like Breaking Bad and stuff like that, their ratings went up because of DVR.
Interesting.
Which is funny to think. How do your ratings go up with Netflix and DVR and all that? No, it was Netflix. It wasn't DVR. It was Netflix. And it's because people that are new to the show can watch all the older seasons, and then they want to watch the show before the new season comes out.
Yep.
But it is. I'll be honest. I have a television. Fuck you, Jason. I have a tube television. I have the big, heavy-ass, clunky, outdated. I think I got my TV in, 2003. It's still holding strong, man. But I don't even watch it. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. I live at home. My parents have the Verizon 4,000 or 5,000 channel deal. I'll flip through it and be like, "There's nothing on," because it's a commitment. I have the internet. I am a brat. I have the internet. I have YouTube. I have Hulu. I have Spotify. I have all that stuff. I mean, it's even a challenge too. We do a podcast. Like, that's why Jason is so hands off with all this stuff, because we're dealing with some short attention spans, man. You have to be on point, or you have to offer something that's different from what everyone else is doing to get people's attention.
Exactly.
And I think WWE is definitely working on it. That's the thing. Like, we can tie this back to TNA before we wrap up. Like, could TNA be trying more?
Yeah, definitely.
Is this like the best effort that they could put forth, or could they try harder?
They could try harder on so many levels. Like, I've heard go after the video game, go after, Netflix, get their shit on Netflix. Like, that to me is huge.
Oh, well, that's the thing, because I know more people that religiously watch TV shows on Netflix than they do on actual TV, because, again, this is the, not to get, like, political on you, but this is the post-Bush economic wasteland. Time is money, man. Like, I worked 2 jobs for a while. I'm, like, close to working full-time now. I go to school. Like, your time is everything. What you decide to devote your time with is everything. So something has to be good enough to invest your time in, because you don't have a lot of it. I mean, in Jason's case, he has a job, he has a full-time job, he has a fiance, he has all that stuff. Like, when Jason can commit to him on a night out, like he was just telling me tonight, like, the reason I was active on Twitter is because he couldn't be, because he was at work.
I was at work till 11 o'clock at night. Still trying to tweet, though, from behind a switchboard, so.
Well, meanwhile, he's tweeting to people. I'm like, who the hell is it? I don't know how to answer this question. Who are you? That's the kind of communication we have on this show. I have no idea who's tweeting me.
Jay's just getting into fights with people.
He's picking fights. I'm, yelling at children. It's a normal day for Mark's on Commentary.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we don't want to work a work shoot with anybody.
Well, if I knew them and I knew them well, I don't know.
To me, I just think like everybody does that and nobody cares.
Not to sell us short, but no offense, we have some great fans. Again, I can't emphasize enough. We have a fan who donated to the suicide walk I'm doing. We have some funny ass fans that have when we were getting Gangrel originally when we did the campaign that were creating memes where it's like we have some great fans, but who the hell cares if we do a shoot or something? Nobody knows who we are yet.
I've legitimately shooted on people and nobody cares. So I'm not gonna fake shoot on somebody.
Well, I mean that's what I mean. Like I'm not trying to shit on them.
No, not at all.
But it's a great idea in theory, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. But it would be more fun if people knew who the fuck we were.
Exactly. I'm not Colt Cabana. I don't have a popular YouTube channel. We have our nice amount of listeners, and thankfully they'll stick with us. But nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, and when people start giving a shit is when I would start wanting to have fun with other shows that people also give a shit about and they love. And, if they're more popular than us or just when we're on the same level with everybody, I would love to do stuff like that. But for the time being, if you've never seen me, you've seen me on the YouTube channel when Jason and I first started doing this idea of Mark's Commentary. As far as you know, I'm the Freddie Mercury looking asshole in the Kelly Kapowski shirt. Who the hell cares what I have to say? So it's all in good fun, and I would love to do stuff like that. For the time being, it's all business, which is get more listeners, entertain the ones we have, show them our respect, show them our gratitude, and just stick with that Twitter because you guys are a lot of fun. I did not expect the whole Big Sob thing and the whole Ultimate Warrior thing to get retweeted to us. I think you guys are funny as hell. And again, this is not a show where we talk down to you. This is not a show where we're supposed to be better than you as fans or as whatever. Dude, I'm just an asshole who lives at home that watches pro wrestling and is still holding out that our glory years are, still ahead. Whatever, just have fun with it. Don't take stuff so seriously. That's the only thing I'm going to end tonight with. Don't take stuff so seriously. I make fun of everything. If you're a TNA fan and you're really offended by what I'm saying about TNA, dude, I actually paid to go see Slammiversary. All right? I can't hate the product that much, but I actually paid to be like, all right, what's this about? Not leafy. That's what it's about. Not leafy. Anyways, 978-276-9418 at MO Commentary, Mark's Commentary on Facebook, Automatic, Vimeo, YouTube, my remarks on blogging.blog. I got too many things.
Just go to www.marksOnCommentary.com. You can find everything there.
That's right, go to WWE.com. Just go to WWE.com.
Yeah, WWE.com. You'll find us there.
Well, I'm Eddie Rosie.
I'm Jason Smith.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, this is Bobby Blaze, Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion and former WCW Champion, and you're listening to the Marks on Commentary podcast. I'm here to plug my new book, Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. Don't forget to listen every week, every day. Download as often as you like. It's Bobby Blaze, and I'm telling you, I'm setting the world of wrestling on fire once again. Enjoy it, Marks on Commentary. Have a great day.